Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. This is Recruit Painting, and in this episode of what I'm painting, I am painting the two-tiered display piece from TnTs Games. They sent me this one as part of a review a little while back, and I have to say it was a pleasure to build. It's so well engineered, and it's a shame I didn't do a little video on that, to be perfectly honest, because it's really simple but clever design. So it was a really fun kit to build. If you follow me on Instagram, you may well have seen some Space Hulk inspired terrain that's been built. Again, that is from the TnTs range, and that's going to be down at the local gaming shop, where we're going to be building a terrain board for Conflict 47, which will feature an interior bunker with lots of little corridors and places to go down, which is really cool. But also there'll be a really cool display piece for Space Hulk and the Space Hulk table, which is well underway. All made from these kits, and yeah, the range is just great, to be perfectly honest. But for this one, I felt really inspired by Fallout. I'm a huge Fallout fan. I have got the starter set in my pile here that I want to get started with. So I really wanted to kind of theme my build and my paint around Fallout, so that when I get the miniatures done, I can put them on this and it will look really cool. So it's quite a simple one, and the first part of the video, or the first few clips there's a bit of a back and forth, so you can skip it along, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, hopefully you enjoy it. So let's get started. The channel is now proudly sponsored by Fog of Wargames. Be sure to check out their website. You can follow the link in this description, where you'll be able to pick up miniatures, hobby supplies, paints, and even their own range of basing materials from the Flock and Forge. Be sure to use code RECRUIT10 at checkout for 10% off their already discounted items. Okay, so for this project, I started off by priming the whole thing in matte black, trying to get everywhere I possibly can, to be honest, all of the visual areas anyway, because this is a display piece and it's the interior that's the important part. I did also spray the back as well, but to be honest, I might just keep that matte black. So yep, so that's all sprayed black, and then it comes down to the colour choices, and I've really struggled to decide what I wanted to do with this. Thinking that I kind of want those Fallout shelter kind of tones, because I do have a few Fallout models that I need to get building and painting at some time soon, and this would be really great to display them on there. But also like a grittier kind of grey as well was also another idea. But I think I've decided, I think I'm going to go for the bluer greys. So I've got the first colour that's going to go down is Dark Reaper, then Rust Grey, and then Fenrisian Grey, potentially. I'm going to see how these two first go, and then maybe see if I need to add this one at all, but just kind of add a bit of tonal difference in there. And I am going to be using makeup sponges as well to paint it. It's a technique I've seen on quite a few videos, and I have used it to paint some of my miniatures to give an airbrush effect on camo patterns, but I want to see how I can do with a piece of terrain, so I'm going to use makeup sponges for this one, and then add a bit more detail into it a little bit later on, because it is a display piece, so I do want it to be a good backdrop for some of my miniatures. So let's get started. Okay, so for the first step, what you're going to do with your makeup sponge is dunk it in some water, make sure it's fully submerged, and just squeeze it out just so it's a bit damp. There we go. And then what I'm going to do is get my first colour, which is Dark Reaper. That's going to serve as the base colour for the panels at the back. What I'm going to do is get a bit on the sponge itself and spread it out on my palette. I normally use as my dry brushing palette. And to be fair, I'm just going to be putting my paint on here and working it from this. So, first colours are ready to go down. Might, yeah, see how we get on then. So, just going to try and get in as deep as I can. This one. And just blend it in on all those panels there. The great thing about using the sponges is that it kind of really accentuates those details because it doesn't get into all the corners. And I'm just going to go through all these panels with this colour. Okay, so on reflection, it didn't really work to get into those areas. You can see, look, it's quite hard to get into the difficult to reach areas. So what I'm going to do is I've got a large, it's actually a dry brush, and I'm just going to paint over and just fill in those panels just regularly with a regular brush, and then use the makeup sponges for a step a little bit later on. So similar intention of earlier, just dark Reaper. I'm not going to worry too much about those highlighted areas, because what will happen is when I go back over with those other two colours later on, there will be a tonal difference between them, which should work anyway. So yeah, just going to come back over and just fill in all of the back panels, because the gangways are going to be in a silver, I think, or metallic. Okay, so that's the first colour down, the dark Reaper. So the next colour that I'm going in with is Rust Grey from Citadel, or it's Warhammer colours now. So got the sponge, and what I'm going to do is just try and pick out some of the like central areas and just blend them outwards. So. Okay, so I'm going to give up on the sponging, I think, just because it's really tricky to get into these corner areas here, and I just don't think the blend is good enough. I don't know, maybe it's a case of trusting the process, but yeah, I'm not quite happy with that. So I might use it later on for some sort of highlighted areas, like maybe down the middle or something, to give that impression that maybe there's light on in the like it's lighter in the center of the panels. But at the moment, I think I'm just gonna paint over in the Rust Grey because I feel like that's actually quite a nice base to work from. So yeah, I'm just gonna do that now. Okay, so here we are again. So this time base coating in Rust Grey. So I'm just going to fill or cover these areas in the Rust Grey, and what I'll do is I'll then wash it in Nuln Oil, I reckon. Okay, so now that's dry, I've got a diluted mix of water and Nuln Oil here. So I'm just going to put this all over the panels. So, I don't know why I've started in the middle, but there we go. So just going to cover all the panels. Try not to let it pool too much. There's a lot of like big open areas here. So just keep a close eye on it. Okay, so now that the nail oil is dry, you can see there, I'm now going to dry brush Fenrisian Grey from Citadel, just to bring out some highlights on those raised edges. So I'm going to try and get most of the paint off. Here I'm using my cork dry brush palette. Just to get all of that excess off. Do a little check. There we go. So I'm just going to start going from the top. Just go down. It's just subtly bringing out those edges there. Underneath. There we go. Okay, so that's that dry brush. So now I'm going to be painting all of the metal areas. Well, it's all metal, but the areas that I want to be metallic in Leadbelcher. It's a nice dark metallic silver colour, so all of the girders, all of the walkways are going to get a coat of that. So just going, trying to be really careful not to hit the blue. Now the reason I'm doing this now is because when I weather the back panels, I also want to weather the silver or the metal areas as well, so it's all uniform. At the minute, all I've done, although it does kind of weather it a bit, this is kind of like the base layer really of those back panels. Probably should have said that first before doing it, but never mind. So this will take a little while, and when you see it next, it will all be done. Okay, so for this next step, I'm going to use Mechanica Standard Grey, and what I'm going to do is, to start off the weathering, I'm just going to sponge a bit with a bit of packing sponge from a miniature, just into some areas. Some places I'm going to build it up a bit more, because then I'm going to build up some rust in that area as well. So this kind of like gives that impression of sort of just below the primer, sorry, just below the first coat of paint. And then what I can do is build up some rusted areas over that as well. The idea is trying to get most of it off. Just sponging loads of it off here on my palette. There we go. So we want it to look really sort of porous, so it looks like just those chipped areas of paint. So then just going to start putting it in. Start at the top actually, you can see it. There we go. It just picks out those sort of raised areas where there'll be that wear and tear on the panels. Okay, so with the sponging now done, you kind of see subtly, just adds a bit of weathering to the back panels there. I've now mixed, gosh, I think it's about, well, it's very watered basically. I've got 1 part Mornfang brown and probably about 10 or so drops of water. Basically you want it really watery. And what I'm going to do with this is going to be kind of like a wash really over all the metallic areas, and what that will do is it will give it a bit of a kind of a worn sort of rusted effect. So I'll start with this top panel here just so you can see. So it just kind of like brushes on there, lots of the lead belcher are still coming through, which just gives it that sort of rusty sort of tinge to it. And I use this for things like my tank tracks and stuff like that as well. So all of those metallic areas are going to get this wash that I've made with Mornfang Brown. Excuse my squeaky chair there. Okay, so next I'm going to get Mornfang Brown again, and a piece of sponge on the end of a brush cover, and I'm just going to pick out the areas so you can see where the grey is, just with a bit of the Mornfang Brown, because what I'm going to do, the more built up areas where I've got the paint sort of chips, I'm going to make those a little bit rusty. So I'm going to get a little bit on my sponge here, try and sponge a fair bit of it away. And then just start sponging it within those areas there. So just looking for the built up areas, because I'm going to add a few different layers of different colours here, and then streak some of it as well, because I kind of want like a stipple effect. Because I want it to look like, obviously this is painted at the back, and the rust is kind of coming through the metal. So having looked at a few pictures online, there is that kind of effect where the paint's sort of chipping away in different areas and the rust is coming through. So just going to pick out some of these bigger areas. There's another one over here. And then over there. Okay, so the next step with the rust then is I kind of want there to be a few little streaks really. So just in the areas around here, just gonna add a bit of watered down Mornfang Brown, similar to what we did on this area earlier. Just in the little rust patches, just to give it a bit of further weathering. And there's no like real correct way to do this. I've probably gone a bit too far. I always seem to go a bit too much with the weathering, but there you go. I've made my decision now, so I've got to stick with it. So just add those streaks in. Okay, so next I'm going to do the same thing, but with a brighter orange. So I'm going to use Troll Slayer orange here, and I'm going to keep these inside the Mornfang Brown areas, just so that yeah, it just adds a bit of tonal difference to the rust. So there's like a lighter rust area, so I'll use this one as an example. So just tapping it in there, just to give it a subtle bit of difference in its texture and tone. So making sure I get loads of it off. There we go. Okay, and then the final step is I've just watered down some of that Troll Slayer orange, and I'm just gonna, similar to what we did earlier but just a bit less, just going to dab it little dots into the middle of those patches, and then just streak it down either with my brush or with my finger. So it's just adding like multiple layers. And textures to that paint.
And this is the final result. Obviously I had a few mishaps at the beginning, trying out different methods that didn't quite work, but that's part of the hobby. and I wanted to leave those clips in here just so you can see the journey that I went on when painting this. You know, I had an idea in my head of the sponging technique working really well with this because of the details that are on the panels, but obviously I didn't factor in the girder work there, so that's just made it a little bit challenging. But ultimately, you know, the method of paint, wash and dry brush also works really well for this, and then the added weathering effects as well just, you know, really make it pop. So I'm really happy with how it turned out. Obviously I didn't paint the back of it because this is a display piece, and you know, the focus is going to be on the front of this. You know, I'm going to put miniatures on it, so expect to see a lot of miniatures, you know, my 40k miniatures and potentially, you know, future Fallout miniatures on this backdrop in the future. So yeah, I hope to get some good use out of this one. Again, thank you to Nick from TnTs Games for sending this out for review for the magazine, and then obviously, you know, I've ultimately painted it because, you know, I was really keen to use it as a backdrop for some of my miniatures. So if you're interested in reading the review of you know, what I thought putting this together, you can find it in issue, I believe it's going to be in issue 141 of Wargames Soldiers and Strategy, so you should see it in there. But yeah, that's it from me and from this paint tutorial. If you've enjoyed this video, do please like and subscribe, and comment, you know, what do you think about this piece? Are you considering picking something up for yourself? And you know, if you do, we'd love to see what you guys get up to. Right, see you in the next one.